of what makes the making of a man, and I'm putting it that way, and I'm singling out the black male. You said love and
Yes.
value.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart, something has gone awry with those two components that molds the male, the black male particularly. What has gone, all right, so we talk about value. You have the spiritual, you have the moral, you name the value systems that this generation grew up with. And I'm sure Mr. Cox had a little bit, because based on what I listened from him, I know that he was he come from good stock.
Yeah.
So
good breed.
Yeah, you could
yes, the animal again. Good breed.
He come from a good stock. But the point I'm making is, at the end of the day, how do we retool to reintroduce, because it's lacking, It is lacking in the homes. Maybe we need to start where we impose or introduce or reintroduce, I don't know from which angle, those value systems that are needed so that they impart to these children, and so that we can't leave it when they get older. What do we need to do in that regard?
Do as some countries I see doing now, insisting that in our schools we have more male teachers, because the boy leaves home in a single parent
My
home.
God.
He comes to school, he's taught by a female. His principal is also female. Every time he gets into trouble, it's another female who has to deal with him. So every time he has to be corrected, he's corrected by a female.
Why?
You understand? Everywhere he goes, he comes out on the job market, his boss is a female. You see? So there are some countries now looking to encourage and give sweeteners to cause male teachers. I was I think it was St. Vincent or one of those places, and they asked me to speak in a school. And they were talking about the disruption of the boys in the school. The first question I asked, what is the ratio of teachers, female versus male? Only one male in the whole school, and that was the principal, who is normally not present because he has other things on the outside to do. So it is run completely by women. No wonder. Now, I'm not trying to say that women leadership is a problem, but when you have it disproportionate when it comes to the boys, where is the connection with testosterone? We connect because there is something about a male voice that we connect with. So a mother would tell her son over and over, clean your room, do this, and she'll come back 4, 5 times, 6 times. I say, boy, I tell you, clean your room and so on. And the father would say, did you hear your mother?
And that was it. And the room clean already. Mr. Cox, jump in there, because I know you could identify with that.
Yeah, that one hit hard.
But stay with the point.
Yeah, and in society too, and speaking to the theme, of course, for our viewers, boys and their well-being, their needs to feel happy, healthy, and valued within the family and the community. In terms of empowering the boy and even the men who you speak to with regards to getting involved in the school system and that kind of stuff, the balance, how it is, empowerment. How do we empower going forward? I mean, we can recognize the day, and of course, organizations like B-Men is important, institutions, and would take on initiatives and stuff. But how can we empower on a day-to-day basis to encourage the young man that you may not have subjects or you may not be specialized in a particular field, but I can still find a way to empower you to become a better man.
Right. Okay. So, a number of ways, and let's probably start at the family. As a boy grows, he wants to take on new responsibilities. He wants to challenge systems. He wants to explore. But because of our strict, in some cases, or strict environment, we don't want him to do that. We don't want him to start taking on more responsibilities. A 14-year-old boy told me this one time. He said, I love my mother. I love her dearly. But it's as though she's not recognizing that I'm getting big. She still wants him to come in by 6 o'clock. She still wants to be able to manage him as though he was still 6 years old. But this is a single mother who's doing this for his care and his protection. But he says, I'm almost feeling as though she wants me to be her daughter. Yeah? Because he said, I can't go kite flying because she can't fly kite, but he can't go with anybody else. He can't go catching crab. He can't do anything that would be the normal risky things. And one mother told me that, you know, she sent her son to his father to spend the weekend. And he came back with scratches on his skin. She said he ain't going back.
You like that? You know, or he got
The mother said, because the father
mother,
took him to the bush and so on, took him to do the things
yes,
boys like to do.
Yes.
But she wants a clean-skinned son. You understand? So she said she's not sending him back again because he was only scratching up the boy's skin. But that, let me tell you, what we like is marks to prove manhood. You know, when you fall on a bike, you tell me you riding bike for 5 years and you have no mark to show.
I have one right here. Now that could be called, in different cultures, right? And we talk about rite of passage like Mr. Pigot and so on. From our homeland, there's what you call tribal mark that the young man has to go to prove his manhood.
Yes.
No, all right. And so, just piggybacking on that whole question of empowering, right? Because when your voice start to crack, when you go through that puberty, as you said, we want to feel that we're man.
Yes.
We start wanting girlfriend and that sort of thing. But there are some things that we don't understand in that transition that nobody teaches, because I'm not sure whether they teach that in school. I mean, from puberty to manhood, the transitioning, Mr. Stewart, which is critical.
Yes.
Because in some cases they don't even know, and I think you had an etiquette class as to train them how to treat our young ladies and that sort of thing. That part of the empowerment, so they make the transition with the skill or whichever to really tool them to transition into manhood. That aspect of it, how do we make that transitioning in giving them the information? Look, you're not a boy anymore. You're the same 14-year-old whose voice might be starting to crack and so on. Speak to that.
Well, I think experiential learning, that you have to allow them to take their risk, and as one guy put it, do risky things safely. By just monitoring them. So we try to make sure that we manage everything, but we cannot manage everything because one boy's mind explores in a different way and so on. So I think it is necessary as a boy growing up, both at home and in the school system, and that's why our school system is rigid towards writing and rigid towards academics and so on. But if you give that same boy, for example, if you give the boy an essay to write on his holiday, his vacation, he might give you a poor essay. But if you ask him, show me some things you made, or make some things with the kite that you make it now for the class and so on, and talk about it. He will talk because he's actually doing some things, rather than to write those things. So it have different kind of learning styles that people have. But you mentioned something that I want to say before we run out of time, and this is it, where you talk about sexual thing and so on. You know, I had a group of men, and we were talking with men, and many of the men got their first sexual encounter by an older woman. You understand? So we ignore the fact that some of the sexual engagements of these boys have been initiated by older women. You see? So it might have been a relative, it might have been a cousin, it might have been somebody who just liked the boy, sometimes even a teacher, as we have read in the newspapers with some of the schools overseas. So, and I thought that was very interesting as to how does that now impact the boy as he grows and he feels himself, because if an older man interferes with a younger girl, that's an issue. But if a younger boy finds that he's attracting an older woman, it's a different feeling. He feels empowered.
Yes.
You see? So now he comes out there and he figures that now this is where it's supposed to be. But we also see a handsome young man and we say, boy, you handsome, but you'll get plenty woman. And he grows up, he says, oh, that is what manhood is. Eh?
Yeah, and you're talking about masculinity there. And if we look, and I know we spend time talking about parents and finding different ways to treat with the boy child, but even peers. And if you look at the physical aspect, a young man might say, well, they might call him a weakling, or he may not have as much muscles, or he may not have the ability to run fast, or whatever the case is, different physical stuff. And that too would affect, in terms of dealing with your peers and in a society where certain certain, how to put it, myths about what masculinity really is, may conflict or may cause confusion in the mind of the young boy. Just speak to that before we wrap up this morning.
Right. Well, you see, that is a long topic here. That
that would be your last comment on that question.
Right. So I think we need to be able to help define, because to go into it would be too long, but we need to help define what masculinity is, even in the minds of men, and then now we can transfer that into the minds of boys. So I suggest that we have a little discussion about masculinity and what does that look like, and how does that now fit into how we see ourselves as men in society.
Well, next year we will not allow this day to pass without some form of celebration of some kind of activity.
We do have to wait for next year, my boy.
Anything this year at all? Plans for International Men's Day? Boys?
Yes, there are a number of activities going on that mostly in Trinidad. So what I'm doing is having these kind of chats with people. I was on, I think, to make updates yesterday, and we're trying to make people aware of the need for boys to be engaged in their own authorship as they become men.
Excellent. All right, Mr. Stewart, thank you for being here. And of course, hey, so we did it. And of course, our boys, we got to take care of our men. And of course, a big point he made there about the male lacking in the school or education system. And of course, so young men out there, you can apply to be teachers. Go get the requisite qualification and occupy the seats as teachers and so on in our school system. All right, with that, let's go for a break. When we come back, lots more.